What about the user experience? Presumably, a person using a computer compared to 20 years ago is having so much of a slicker, easier life, and that it's just a joy to use computers, right?
No, really not true. I mean, on average, I would have to say it's probably a little bit better. So then I have to pick a point in time of comparison, right?
Okay, yeah.
I could pick 2 points in time, right? So, so one point in time that's very close to today in a lot of ways is when I was in college, which because I'm old was like 1989 to 93. So let's just say the early 90s, right? And the computers that we used at that time were basically the same thing that we're using today, right? 30 years ago. Now, this was a little bit advanced because everybody's home computer was a few years behind. Like it took, like if you used Windows, it took until probably Windows 98 for most people to get the same thing that you had like in college. But basically, to get technical, a multi-user operating system running protected memory that could run multiple processes and communicate over the internet and all that, right?
Yeah.
So you had that in the 90s, and you ran programs by clicking on icons, and you know, the
If your
programs
job
were
was
basically mostly the same.
if your job was working on word processor or a spreadsheet application, Windows 95 on the hardware that it came out on, and a computer you buy today with the software that it gets is, I would argue, very similar experience.
Yeah, I think Windows 95 didn't have inter-process memory protection, which is actually a big deal because it protects
That
your machine
prevents
from
some
going down
crashing.
very easily. But
Yeah.
aside from that, yeah, like if you just want to talk about user experience when things are working well, yeah. And, the only reason I would say it's maybe a little bit better now than when I was in college is because those machines were so underpowered compared to what we had today that drawing a screen full of pixels was like a big deal for them, right? Now we can do it thousands of times per second, but these were machines with like 8 megabytes of RAM, right? Everybody
Yeah.
these days has 8 gigabytes of RAM or more, right? So we have 1,000 times more memory. We have, CPUs that again are much, much faster. And so that's the main reason that maybe the experience was slightly less. I would say, 25% less.
Right.